is a very special video. The topic is kind of somber. It's about self-harm. So I have dealt with quite a few cases of self-harm, especially with teenagers, but I've seen that very many times this pattern reoccurs in life. Okay, in some way or the other, there is some pattern of self-sabotage that people like this who have inflicted suffering and harm on themselves, they get caught in all these vicious cycles of self-sabotage. So I have some cases that I might discuss with you. So I have a few notes that I've made. So I'm going to start up first with telling you what to look for in a chart if you're looking at understanding self-harm. So in most of the cases, self-harm happens due to difficult Pluto positions. Okay, so we know what Pluto is. Pluto is Hades, okay, the god of the netherworlds. Pluto is the symbol of death and rebirth, of course, regeneration, because with every death there is a new birth. So we have to understand that life is cyclical. So as there is death, so there is life again. So there is, if one door closes, another opens. It's very much like a cycle. That's how life operates. So Pluto positions, yes, Pluto being our unconscious. If there are difficult aspects of Pluto in your natal chart, then oftentimes it is a pointer of how you use power or how power is used against you, how you understand power. So if you have a very Plutonic chart, so to say, if you're very Scorpio heavy, or if you've got your natal Pluto making very many aspects and very many connections and having very many conversations with your other planets, especially personal planets, and Mars, which I'm going to get into now. So Mars is another indicator of power and abuse of power, harm, sadism, masochism. All of this can be looked at with the Mars archetype, through the Mars archetype. Okay, so if Pluto and Mars in the natal chart have difficult placements and difficult conversations that they have, like squares, like oppositions, then there could be a lot of change, a lot of problems, a lot of trauma in the person's life. So Mars and Pluto are the two catalysts, okay, that bring this whole self-harm. Okay, now I want to mention here that before I get to discussing Mars in detail, I'll tell you a bit about Pluto. Pluto on the ascendant, that is conjunct the ascendant, or Pluto near the ascendant. Now I have Pluto near my ascendant. It's not in the same house, it's in my second house, but I still have Pluto very near my ascendant because my ascendant is at the very end of Virgo. So there is this motif of change that I have seen throughout my life, that people have just come and gone, situations have just come and gone, and I have never been able to understand why, what, when, who comes and who goes. Really, it's very Plutonic things, because Pluto, remember, is the unconscious. So stuff just, and your ascendant is the very marker that the outside world marks you as. That's the book of your cover. The person, so to say, is your ascendant. So when Pluto, which is this destructive, cataclysmic planet, conjunct the ascendant, there's a lot of change, a lot of tumultuous, a lot of a lot of traumatic experiences. So if you are watching this and you've had this really traumatic experiences that you just don't know what is going on, it could be because you have Pluto on or near your ascendant. Just a thing, you can get it checked out by me. Drop me an email. Now, getting back to even an opposition with the ascendant actually is quite a difficult conversation in your natal chart. Opposition is 180 degrees apart when two people are two energies are opposing each other. Your ascendant is who you are, and Pluto is who the world perceives you as. And Pluto is this destructive, underworldly energy, almost like a Kali, that is bringing about this destruction, you know. And now, very interesting thing here is that if there is a Venus square Pluto, then the masochist angle is very heightened. The understanding of harm, the understanding of physical pain and wanting to experience pleasure through that pain is quite evident with Venus conjunct Pluto, okay? And these people could even practice self-humiliation and self-abuse, self-mutilation. But this is more the sexual angle because Venus is present there. But with the ascendant Pluto, it's more like change and devastation and power. The person who has this in their natal chart can become obsessed with power, in trying to get power or make it used by people, and be made a scapegoat and have no power. So this is very important with Pluto on the ascendant to understand. Now, getting to Moon square Pluto, which I think is one of the most important aspects to look at when studying self-harm. Okay, now why is that so? Because the moon is your emotion, is your emotional self, is your feelings, your mother. Okay, and then when the moon has such a tense conversation, which is a completely opposing energy to Pluto, then it could mean that you have this very traumatic experiences, oftentimes to do with the mother, and your emotions are just very traumatized. And in many cases, this moon opposition Pluto brings about self-harm. So if you suspect that your child is into self-harm, it might be a good idea to check out if they have this moon opposition Pluto happening. All right, it could give you very many ideas. I have a case in front of me of a 13-year-old child, and they have cats at home. So when her mom came to me and she wasn't sure, but she had all these marks, and her child just kept lying to her that the cats did it. But when I saw her chart and I told her mother that no, it's her, and her mom went and found out, and it was very traumatic. But once you become aware of the energy, then you know what you're dealing with, then you know what to do, how can you set it right. Okay, the universe is all about consciousness experiencing itself. So when you experience something traumatic, how do you reverse that energy? That's what astrology, tarot, they can actually help you with that. These are tools, okay? Tai Chi, martial arts, all of this. So that was one case I wanted to talk about. But now going back a bit on the ascendant thing. And this was a person that I'm talking about was arrested out of no fault of his, okay, and he was at the wrong place at the wrong time. And interestingly, he was considered to be the person who committed the crime, but he wasn't. So this opposition to the his Mars opposition to Pluto, he had a very tense conversation of his ascendant with Pluto and Mars, and they were all intertwined, and it was hard. So he was, instead of displaying the rampant need for power, he was getting abused by the world, and power was being thrown at his face, and he felt powerless completely. So this Pluto on the ascendant thing can either make you feel completely powerless, or it can also make you a power hungry sociopath and can give you psychopathic tendencies. In the worst case, plutonic urges taken to the very negative extreme results in killings, murders, genocides, and stuff like that. Pluto, difficult stuff to deal with when they have these tense conversations with Venus, Moon, Mars in our natal chart. So it's very important for you to find the placement of Pluto and then to discover what conversation your natal Pluto is having. And of course, when the planets travel, the progress planets, they again touch your Pluto. So all the time you're being activated, and if you are a strong Pluto person, then you know death, pain, trauma. Death in some way has made itself felt to you over and over again. Okay, and you've cried, you've screamed, you've felt tremendous pain, but this is something you've had to live with if you're a plutonic person, and if Pluto has touched you. Now, in the most negative vibration, you could become, as I said, psychopathic, psychotic, narcissistic, completely controlling, obsessive person. But Pluto on the very neutral level is a great purger. So if there's something karmic that you need to purge, Pluto on your ascendant or Pluto having these tense conversations can really help you purge. And Pluto in its final positive manifestation is the phoenix, which rises up from its own ashes and resurrects itself. So Scorpio has these three archetypes that you have to work through. This is the Plutonic Trinity that you have to understand if Pluto is a big prominent player in your natal chart, So that was one case. And Venus and death and rebirth. Yeah, so Mars square Pluto can definitely push you towards self-harm, or maybe somebody who's into such habits has a prominent tense conversation between Mars and Pluto. It's not too late. It can be rectified once you understand the archetype and you're ready to work through the archetype. You understand that, we can move from it. Now, but you have to recalibrate. Okay, the Sun and Pluto conversation. Okay, the Sun square Pluto. Very interesting, because the Sun square Pluto conversation in your natal chart is the ultimate self-destructive symbol. Now, Sun is your internal power, so you cannot express yourself to the world how you want to. Now, this can cause resentment, obsessions, psychopathic behavior. So, key components to look at is your Pluto, your natal Pluto, what aspects your natal Pluto is making to what planets, which house is your natal Pluto in, what is the sign that your natal Pluto is in, and then really try to work around these themes. Because if you've been working with trauma, pain, death, rebirth, reproductive problems, sacral chakra imbalance, if you're working with sexual problems, then this is a very good way to work through your life, is looking at the archetypes that are present in your natal chart and really understanding and exploring them, and then finally integrating them and letting whatever does not serve its purpose go. Just let it go, right? So I hope you enjoyed that. It's a very somber topic to talk about, and it breaks my heart to know that you might be one such person who is suffering from this destructive pattern, that you need to cut yourself, that you need to feel the pain to feel alive. Believe me, I have myself experienced quite many such destructive addictions, and I have come out of it. So can you. Once you understand and work through the archetypes, everything falls into place. So get in touch with me if you want to know more about Pluto and the tense conversations Pluto is having in your natal chart, if any at all. If you're not a Plutonic person, then wow, you know. So it's very interesting anyway to work through the archetype of Pluto and to really understand the cycles of death and rebirth. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you do enjoy the work I do, then please share, like, comment, subscribe. Find me on Facebook. Find me when I do my live shows and get a free reading from me. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.